Hello guys, welcome to Uzumaki Legends. In this video we will see, what if Naruto saved Kurenai and won the heart of Konoha's most beautiful Kunoichi? Part 1. If you enjoy these kinds of fanfics, please hit the like button and subscribe the channel for more fanfics like this. And now without any further delay, let's start the fanfic. We need to retreat, yelled out a ninja, Anbu judging from his attire and animal mask on his face. His clothes were torn in numerous places, most likely from a battle with another ninja. A small line of blood was flowing down his left arm, probably a cut from a kunai or a sword of some kind. His breathing was ragged, his posture indicating he was exhausted. He was yelling at the ninja in front of him. The said ninja was a very exquisite being. She was one of the most beautiful women a man could ever hope to meet. She had long, beautiful, black hair that really made her stand out from the rest. And the eyes. Oh, the eyes. The eyes are a story of their own. Those beautiful twin orbs of perfection. Twin pairs of the strangest and most beautiful eyes the world has ever seen. Right now they were staring defiantly at the group of men glaring at her with hatred and lust in some. It was supposed to be a routine mission. That's why she took it. It was supposed to be risk-free and a simple retrieve the package mission. Oh, how cruel the fate can be. She along with her escort, the Anbu standing next to her, went to the grass country to retrieve a report from a spy in that area. It sounds simple, right? Well, things got ugly. The said spy was actually a double spy. A spy for a group of ninjas that hate Konoha with a passion. The spy's mission was to lure Konoha ninjas to them so that they could torture them, kill them and some other things. Once the spy's mission is done, he moves to another country, changes his identity and repeats the process. A scumbag of a man, that's for sure. This time, Kurenai and the Anbu are the victims of this conspiracy. At first they chose to run away from this particular group of ninjas. They knew they were outmatched and outnumbered, so they chose to run. It was a logical choice and a wise one. It went well for the first couple of minutes. The anti-Konoha ninjas were firing jutsus at the Konoha shinobis, but none hit, until a mistake from Kurenai's part changed the whole scenario. Kurenai lost her momentum for a second and paid the price for it. A stray water jutsu hit her and made her stumble on the ground. And that's how they end up in the situation they are in now. Kurenai was panting a bit. The run was more taxing on her than she realized. Damn her sloppiness. This wouldn't have happened if she continued to train regularly. She allowed herself to slip in her training and now she is hitting herself over the head for it. After the War of All Wars, aka the Fourth Shinobi War, the nation stabilized and a true peace established itself among the nations. But despite this peace, there will always be someone out there that holds a grudge towards someone. It just shows how cursed this shinobi world really is. Just surrender already. You can't win this. Don't make this harder than it already is. If you surrender now, we'll make your death swift and painless. Well, after we have our fun with you, that is. Grinned evilly and full of unrestrained lust the leader of the group of ninjas. Kurenai and the Anbu glared on, now with more determination than before. Kurenai couldn't die now. She had someone back home that depended on her. She couldn't and she won't die. The leader scowled. So be it. Yelled out in anger the leader. With a sign, most of the ninjas prepared their jutsus. They wanted to end this as quickly as possible. If they are lucky, the woman will survive and they could have their fun with her. With a unanimous cry, they unleashed their jutsus at the desperate ninjas. Kurenai knew she won't escape from their attacks. It was futile to even resist. She closed her eyes and waited for the end to come. A single thought went through her mind, her baby boy Asuma. Her pride and joy, her sunshine, her reason for living, her reason for smiling and laughing. He was her life. A lone tear escaped her fortress. I'm sorry Asuma. I love you, declared Kurenai in her mind. This was it for her. Doden. Doryuheiki, yelled out a lone voice, the voice of her savior. It was her partner, an Anbu she knows nothing about, not even his name. The Anbu stood in front of her in the now erect wall of earth. The wall was massive and easily towered over the trees. The Anbu was breathing heavily and soon feel on his ness, exhaustion apparent on his face and body. The jutsu took every single drop of power he had left, and it was barely enough to hold the combined power of the enemy's attack. A second cry could be heard from behind the protective wall. A second later the wall crumbled under the force of the enemy's attack. Debris flew everywhere. The duo from Konoha braced themselves and tried to remain unharmed from the assault from the rocks. Easier said than done. Kurenai managed to evade all the projectiles, but the Anbu wasn't so lucky. Exhaustion took its toll on the Anbu and was hit by a particular large section of rock and flung backwards into the trees and was knocked out. Kurenai was now alone and was facing against men that would do unspeakable horrors to her body and mind. She would rather die than let that happen to her. She picked herself up and took her stance. She'll take that as many of them as possible before she lets death take her. The leader grinned in victory. Well, well. It seems our luck played out today. Your partner is out cold and you are all alone. Boys, what say you? Don't we have a fine specimen of the female gender here before our eyes? The said boys yelled out in agreement. What say you? Shall we show her a good time? Grinned lustfully the bastard. Another cry was heard in the clearing. Kurenai was glaring at them with the hatred from the gods. These bastards aren't worthy to be called men. They are freaks, cowards and nothing more. They all started to take a step forwards, which in turn made Kurenai take a step backwards. The process repeated itself a couple of times. And then the ninjas all jumped at once at Kurenai. Kurenai's mind was working in overdrive, trying to think of a possible solution. Running was out of the question. There were too many of them and she was tired. Genjutsu wouldn't work, again too many of them. Ninjutsu also unavailable. Besides, ninjutsu wasn't her strong forte. Her mind was blank. She had nothing. All the training she did in her life and she comes out empty. Well, she won't go down without a fight. She readied herself for the final battle of her life. The attacking ninjas leapt at Kurenai, who was waiting for them with vigor in her eyes. The ninjas were already grinning victoriously. The mission paid off for them. They will have such a wonderful time with this woman, either dead or alive. In a second everything changed. Something was different with the clearing they were in. The wind was acting funny, like someone or something was controlling it. The ninjas didn't have time to react. They were suddenly blown away by a strong hurricane of wind that came out of nowhere. Some of the ninjas managed to regain their balance and landed elegantly, while others skidded a couple of times off the ground, pain revealing itself in their bodies. The leader looked around frantically for the intruder, for the bastard that will soon be dead. Reveal yourself, yelled out in anger and irritation leader. Nothing. No answer was given. But then it came. It seemed like the wind was talking to them. And it said, as you wish. The ninjas and Kurenai waited for the intruder to reveal himself. Kurenai was overjoyed for the arrival of this stranger. She was thinking of just picking up her partner and make a run for it. But she knew better. She wouldn't make it half a mile before they caught up. Right now, she rests her hopes and her life on this new arrival. The eyes of every shinobi were focused of any sudden movements, and soon they got what they wanted. Kurenai's eyes widened. He was behind her. She turned around but remained on guard for the shinobis in front of her. The figure emerged from the forest, walking slowly and with power in his steps. The wind was surrounding the figure, like it was waiting for its master to take control of it. The figure was wearing a white robe with a hood over his face, making his identity unknown. What little of his face could be seen was hidden by a white mask with red and orange streaks on it. The figure walked casually towards Kurenai, who remained cautious of this new figure. The figure stopped walking when he was beside Kurenai. He was looking towards the enemies in front of him, ignoring Kurenai for the time being. Kurenai took that as a sign of trust and temporary alliance. She faced the ninjas again. Who are you? What are you doing here? Yelled out the leader, a scowl on his face. The figure answered, power emanating from him, earning some sweat from his enemy, just a man taking a walk through the forest. This earned another hateful scowl from the man. Don't play games with me. This doesn't concern you. Leave this place. Nah. I like it here. It's peaceful. I think I'll stay here for a while, answered the figure nonchalantly. The leader was fuming with anger. Who does this man think he is? He will die for his insolence. Kurenai was thinking that this man is either the biggest idiot she has ever seen or the bravest. Probably a little bit of both. Look, we only want the woman. Just step aside and let us do our thing, yelled out once again the leader. The figure once again answered calmly and confidently, now why would I want to do that? You have the lady outnumbered. I don't think that's fair. What do you think? You are testing my patience. Move aside or die, threatened the ninja. I'll take option number 3, answered the white figure. And what's that? Asked the leader, reaching for his kunai. Your death, declared the figure who took his battle stance. 2 clones formed beside him, shocking the occupants of the clearing. You have to have skill to perform a clone without seals. The original figure started a string of hand seals and so did his 2 clones. The original and the clones finished the seals at the same time and yelled out together, Kaiden Renkijutsu, Karura. The leader's eyes widened, recognizing the name of the jutsu. When the other ninjas heard the word Kaiden, they all started preparing any water jutsu they knew. They knew fire was weak against water. They made one mistake. This was no ordinary fire. The figure's technique formed into a long string of fire, forming into a magnificent dragon. The ninjas never stood a chance. Their water jutsus were obliterated upon the moment of impact and the ninjas evaporated along with their jutsus. A large explosion occurred upon the impact of the dragon made of fire against the earth upon which now deceased ninjas stood. When the dust settled, there was a surprise among the rubble. The leader of the ninjas still stood, still among the living, although he had seen better days. The leader was breathing heavily, his protective dome made of earth all but shattered. His right side of his face was badly burned and so was his right arm. The dome absorbed most of the damage but even that wasn't enough. The white figure started walking towards his injured enemy, making him sweat and have a fearful expression on his face. "Who are you?" yelled out in anger and desperation the leader. The white figure stopped about 50 meters away from his target. "Who are you?" yelled out again leader who was on his knees now, the wounds taking its toll. The white figure raised his arm to his face and touched his mask. He slowly started to remove it. The leader was focused on the face of the man that ruined everything for him. Months of planning and this guy comes in and destroys everything in seconds. The mask slowly came off and the face became known to the enemy. Kurenai wished to know who the man was as well but she was behind him and couldn't see his face. But judging from the look in the man's eyes it must be someone famous and powerful. The leader was wide-eyed in disbelief, surprise and fear. He knew this man, who wouldn't? Everyone in the world knows who this man was and what he did. This is a man that shouldn't be trifled with. A man that other ninjas give wide berth of space because they don't want to anger him or insult him. This is a shinobi even the cages respect and acknowledge. "This is you, satisfied?" asked the figure, breaking away the leader's thoughts. He put the mask back on his face, the request completed. "Why are you here? Why? This was supposed to be easy," despaired the leader, knowing that he is doomed to fail. These are his last moments in the world of the living. The figure started walking again, slowly, like a man on a mission which he was. Fear etched itself on the man's face and eyes. "Get away from me. There is no escape for you. Your crimes are unacceptable. I cannot allow you to remain living. You cause too much suffering." "I'm sorry," said the figure still walking. No, I won't die here. You will die," yelled out in one final attempt to get out of this alive. He started making hand seals for his most powerful jutsu, Kaiden D. He never got to finish the name of his jutsu. The man in the white robe was suddenly in front of him, a kunai in his hand which was now embedded in the man's heart. Blood pooled out of the man's mouth, his eyes hurt and losing life rapidly. His body was trembling, going into shock. He whispered, "This was supposed to be easy." He collapsed to the ground, his breathing stopped. The man was dead. The world is free from another man causing suffering to people. The white man looked down at his now deceased opponent. "You dug your own grave. May you find peace in the afterlife." He turned around and walked back towards the stunned Kurenai and the still unconscious Anbu. Kurenai was speechless, which doesn't happen often. His movements were so fast, way faster than anything she had seen so far. Not even Kakashi or Guy could move so fast. Not to mention his prowess in the ninjutsu department. He unleashed a high-level jutsu which obliterated most of the opponents, and he wasn't even winded. What kind of man is he? "Konoha-san, any injuries?" asked politely the white figure. Kurenai woke up from her stupor. "Oh, no," said Kurenai, but the truth was she was exhausted. All the running and evading enemies' jutsus, it took its toll on her stamina. She is on the verge of chakra exhaustion. And her partner is in even worse shape than she is. He is also suffering from chakra exhaustion, which could take a week or more to recover from. Not to mention any other injuries he sustained from protecting her. "So you are shaking because?" asked the figure, dragging out the final word. Kurenai looked down and saw that she was trembling. Her knees were shaking slightly and she could feel her strength fading. "Here, catch this," said the figure, throwing her a small soldier pill, to help her with her exhaustion. Kurenai caught the pill and eyed it carefully, looking for any anomalies. The figure noticed that and chuckled a bit. "Don't worry, it's safe. Besides, if I wanted to kill you, don't you think I would have done it already?" He was right. She was no match for him. Not in this exhausted state, or any state for that matter. This man was in a class of his own. She swallowed the pill and she could feel some of her strength returning, not much but enough to keep her going for a while. The figure nodded and started walking towards the Anbu somewhere in the tree line. "You are far from home, Konoha-san. Far from the safety of the confines of your village. It's not wise to travel in your condition and with the sun setting all the more. If you choose so, you can follow me to my camp." He let the statement hang in the air while he went to check on the Anbu. He wasn't a master in the medical field, but he knew a thing or two. The Anbu probably had a concussion and some broken ribs and some other external wounds. It will take a while before he will be able to move normally. Kurenai meanwhile pondered whether or not to take his offer. The man had a point. She was exhausted and hurt. Her partner was down for the count and she wouldn't make it with him slowing her hack, and she isn't about to abandon him here. Right now, she would have to take his offer and move on from there. "I accept," said Kurenai. The figure didn't make any signs of hearing her answer. He just made a clone and made him pick up the Anbu and motioned to Kurenai to follow him. And she did. They were jumping across the forest for a while now. Kurenai was sweating profoundly, her exhaustion from before reappearing. Her eyesight was becoming blurry and she could feel the unconsciousness knocking on her door. A moment later she missed her step and was sent tumbling down to her death. Mid-flight, she was already unconscious. The last thing she saw was the ground upon which she will impact a moment later. And then everything went black. Quote 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 quote. Kurenai groaned. The world around her was black. All of her body was in pain. Her head was on fire. "Am I dead?" asked Kurenai. "No one." There was a slight chuckle to Kurenai's left. "No, but you probably feel like you are." Kurenai moved her head to the left and saw the figure from before, indicating that she was indeed still alive. She also noticed something cold and wet on her forehead. It was a cloth of some sort. The figure noticed she was eyeing the cloth he put on her. "You have a high fever." "That's the only thing I can do to lower it to a safe level," answered the figure. Kurenai gave him a small nod of appreciation. She turned her gaze back towards the sky, which wasn't there. She was in some sort of house or something like that. She stored that thought for later to ask. She contemplated her next decision and what went wrong in the mission. If it weren't for this mysterious man, she, along with her partner, would have been dead. And she would have been a toy for them to use. She shuddered a bit thinking what could have happened to her. She didn't have many fears, but rape was one of them. It was the most vile and despicable thing in the world. Your partner is out for the count for at least a week, if not more. He has severe chakra exhaustion and some broken ribs and a concussion. It's up to him how long it takes to recover. Kurenai once again nodded at the man. Here he was, a complete stranger, helping her and her comrade. Who does that? She asked. Where are we? The figure answered, somewhere in grass country. You are in my house. Don't worry, this place is as safe as it gets. Kurenai nodded once again. Her body was all stiff and any movement sent pain through her body. Who are you? Asked Kurenai, the million-dollar question. The figure chuckled again. Just a traveler. Bullshit, snapped Kurenai, which was very unlike her. She was usually a very calm and logical person, but it seems the events from before made her snap a bit. Who wouldn't? She was going to be killed and raped. Believe me, you would be angry and jumpy too. The figure raised his eyebrow, not that Kurenai could see it. The man was obviously surprised by her outburst and waited for her to continue. And she did. That man recognized you, which means you must be someone well known even to a scumbag like him. No traveler is as strong as you. If there was, I would have heard of him. The man chuckled at her answer. Yes, I am famous as you say. But I'm still just a traveler. I travel from country to country helping people in need and people like me. Kurenai raised her eyebrow. What do you mean, like me? I help people that live the same life that I did. Smiled the figure from behind his mask. And what kind of life is that, if I may ask? Said Kurenai, now a bit calmer. Orphans, outcasts, people like that. Said the figure sadly. Why would you do that? Asked Kurenai, confused by his helping nature. Because I can. I have the power to help them, so why not? Answered the figure calmly. Kurenai nodded and stayed silent for a few moments. It was the man who posed a question this time. Do you have anyone waiting for you back home? Kurenai looked towards the man, thinking why would he ask her that, why? I figured you would like them to know you are alive and safe. Kurenai bit her lip. She did want to tell her baby boy and her friends that she was fine, but this man could be a spy himself. The man answered the question she was asking herself. Look, it was just an offer. If you don't want to tell me, then so be it. Said the figure. A moment of silence ensued, but Kurenai answered him, my son. The figure nodded at her. See, that wasn't so hard, was it? Chuckled the figure, earning a scowl from Kurenai. Where can I find your son and what's his name? Asked the figure again. Kurenai answered, his name is Asuma Jr. Right now, he is staying with his aunt. The man nodded. All right, since I don't know where this aunt lives, I'll just send this letter to your Hokage and she can give it to your son. Thank you, said Kurenai humbly and appreciatively. Ma, no thanks necessary, said the figure, who walked into the dark corner. A poof smoke erupted in the corner and the man said, take this to the Hokage, but be discreet about it. Don't let anyone see you, not even the Hokage. Got it? Kurenai didn't hear any response, but whatever it was gone in another poof of smoke. The figure walked back towards his chair and sat on it. What was that? Asked a still lying down Kurenai. The man chuckled at her nosiness. Now, I can't tell you every secret of mine, now can I? Kurenai pouted adorably, like a baby who was denied a candy or something like that. The figure chuckled at that and thought it was very cute. Kurenai blushed when she realized what she did, but was thankful it was dark and the figure couldn't see her blush. She asked afterwards, where are you from? You know, from here and there. Sighed the figure. You know, you are being very elusive in answering my questions. Why? Asked Kurenai suspiciously. What kind of ninja would I be if I told you everything there is to know about me, Smiled the man. A trusting one. I told you I have a son, so at least you can answer me this one question. Said Kurenai kindly. The man was contemplating whether or not to tell her his origins. In the end he decided it wouldn't hurt to tell her a bit about himself, Fire Country. Kurenai nodded at his answer. It wasn't much, but it will have to do for now. How did you find us? Asked Kurenai. Well, it wasn't hard to see and hear the explosions caused by those amateurs. Chuckled lightly the mystery man. But why did you save us? We don't know each other. You don't owe us anything, so why? Asked Kurenai, still baffled why she was saved from her fate. The man had a hardened look on his face behind his mask, his tone serious and powerful. Those men were the worst. I'm sure you know what they would do to you. This made Kurenai wince a bit. He continued, there are very few things I hate in this world, but rapists, and rape is one of them. I couldn't live with myself if I let them have their way with you. Kurenai was touched by his proclamation. Not many people would do that. Most of the men out there would probably join those scumbags and do the same thing to her. Thank you, said Kurenai meekly, shyly. A tear wanted to escape from her, but she reeled it back in. Just the thought of being raped shattered all of her defenses. No one deserves such fate. Now rest. We'll talk more in the morning, said the man, who also went to bed, which was next to the bed in which the Anbu was sleeping. Kurenai nodded and closed her eyes and let her dreams take her away. The sun shined through the only window in which our mistress is currently sleeping. The first rays of light made our mistress start to wake up from her well-deserved slumber. Kurenai groaned and cursed whoever and whatever woke her up from her much-needed rest. She opened her eyes slightly in order to first get used to the light invading her space. She rubbed her eyes a bit, trying to clear the morning fogginess and dizziness. She yawned and sat up on her bed. She stretched the upper part of her body. She looked at her surroundings. Last night, she couldn't see the house properly because it was so dark. The house was a simple one. It had one window, one proper bed, the one she is sleeping in, and another that looked like it was hastily made, the bed that her partner Anbu was recovering in. There was another makeshift bed on the floor next to the bed of the Anbu. The house was also equipped with a functional kitchen, TV and a sofa in the far end of the room. There was a door in the other end of the room that probably led to the bathroom. The house wasn't anything special, but it had that homey feeling. There were some pictures hanging on the walls, but nothing notable. She noticed that the figure wasn't in the house. She saw a glass of water and some pills on her nightstand beside her bed. She smiled at the mystery man's concern. She took a pill and swallowed it alongside the glass of water. Ah, was Kurenai's content voice after that refreshing drink. Her mouth was dry. She hadn't had a decent drink in over 24 hours, or a meal for that matter. But that can wait a little longer. Kurenai stood up from her bed. Her feet touched the cold ground, which made her wince a bit. She stretched her entire body and yawned at the same time, the sleepiness still inside of her. She could feel all of her joints pop back into the proper place. She noticed that her body was still stiff and tired. Her muscles were heavy, obviously from exhaustion. Her chakra was down to a minimum, the consequence of chakra exhaustion. It will take a while before she is back into working condition. It will take even more time for her partner to wake up. For the time being, she is grounded to this house. Her clothes from the previous day were still on her, for which she was grateful. It means the man respected her privacy and didn't do anything unusual. She explored the house belonging to her savior. It was modest in her opinion. It was similar to her own, but hers was bigger and more girly. She wondered where her savior went to. He couldn't have gone far. He probably wouldn't want to leave two strangers alone in his house for too long. Real estate. She went towards the window and looked outside. She saw that the house was in some sort of clearing. She could see trees in the distance but not much else. She decided to go outside for some fresh air and see if the unknown man was anywhere close by. She opened the door leading outside. She was assaulted by the bright morning sun and the scent of the fresh morning. She could hear the wildlife starting to stir in the forest. She heard the birds chirping their morning music. She loved mornings. She loved to just sit on her porch, sip coffee and watch the sunrise. She looked around the clearing upon which the house stood. The clearing wasn't as big as she thought before. The edge of the forest was about 200 meters away from the house. The house was quite secluded and hidden from civilization. The man that saved her lived in solitude, it seems. She looked to the left where she heard the sound of water flowing. She was a bit surprised when she saw a waterfall cascading down a small cliff. She looked behind the house and saw that the house was positioned under the cliff, which was quite big. She turned back towards the small lake and saw the savior from the previous day. He was sitting cross-legged under the raging waterfall, apparently in deep meditation. It took patience and a lot of willpower to not be bothered by the gallons of water hitting your body with tremendous force. This man was something else in Kurenai's opinion. She started walking towards the edge of the lake. She sat on the ground when she reached the body of water. She dipped her feet into the cool water and sighed contentedly. It felt good. She could feel her muscles in her feet relaxing. She turned her gaze back towards the man under the waterfall. She studied him in more detail. He was no longer wearing the robe from yesterday, but the mask was still on. In fact, the only thing on him right now was his pants. He was shirtless, which showed his well-defined and toned body. A body honed from years of fighting and training. She blushed slightly when she saw all of his rigid muscles. In her modest opinion, this was one of the best bodies she had ever had the privilege of seeing, and she saw a lot of them. He also had a nasty scar right over his heart area. She winced a bit when she saw it. Whatever made that particular scar, she knew it must have hurt. She studied all of his other features now that they weren't hidden by the cloak. She noticed that he had blonde, sunny hair. They were beautiful in Kurenai's eyes. She doesn't know many people with blonde hair, which makes it a commodity in Kurenai's eyes. In fact, she could count the people she knows with blonde hair with one hand. There was Ino, one of her best friends and someone she considers part of her family. There was the Hokage, Senju Tsunade, Ino's father and mother, and of course, he. Memories of that particular man started emerging in Kurenai's mind. He was a man like any other. The world knows him as Uzumaki Naruto, but the people that were close to him knew him as a kind-hearted man who would go out of his way to ease someone else's suffering. The world also acknowledges him as a war hero, which he indeed was. He fought bravely in the Fourth Shinobi War and was decisive in the Alliance's victory over Uchiha Madara and the Biju. He defeated the Masked Man, Tobi, which brought victory for the joint Shinobi Alliance. The war was won and the nation celebrated. Anime and manga. But for Naruto there was still a loose end to correct. His brother in all but blood, Uchiha Sasuke. Naruto set out to confront his brother and best friend. And that was the last time the world heard of both Uchiha Sasuke and Uzumaki Naruto. She smiled sadly for the unique man from Konoha. Konoha wasn't the same without him. It was missing that spark, that energy. It missed Naruto. Naruto is Konoha. If only she knew the man she was remembering right now is 10 feet away from her. A penny for your thoughts. Chuckled slightly her savior, who was now walking towards her. Kurenai returned from the world of her thoughts and faced the man that was walking towards her. She could now admire him in all his glory. He easily towered of her and his muscles now really came into display. She held back her blush, which desperately wanted to come out. Ever since the death of her husband, her first love, Sarutobi Asuma, she ignored any romantic attempts from any man. She convinced herself that she didn't need another man in her life. Part of the reason was because she didn't want to insult the memory of her late lover, Asuma. And a part of her thought no one could replace him. But the fact was she was lonely. Sure, she had her friends and her sunshine, her son, Asuma Jr., but she still missed that feeling in her stomach. The same feeling that would emerge whenever Asuma looked at her with love in his eyes. She missed that, very much. She finally answered, "Oh, sorry. I spaced out a bit. Just thinking about some stuff. Are you done meditating?" The man nodded and went to pick up his clothes, which he left near the bank of the lake. He put them on the next second and deprived Kurenai her wonderful view. He took a seat next to her with some distance between them, not wanting to invade her personal space and make her uncomfortable. "Wasn't really into it today," responded the masked man. "A bit restless?" asked Kurenai in return. "Anime and manga." He nodded briefly, but inside, his mind was a roller coaster. The reason should be clear to all of you. This mysterious man is indeed Naruto Uzumaki, who hasn't been seen for the last 2 or 3 years. Imagine his surprise when he stumbled upon Konoha ninjas in need of some help. Why did it have to be Konoha shinobi and above else, someone he knows? It's like fate is mocking him. He's been running away from Konoha since the war, and in one day everything fell apart for him. And now there is a high chance of his identity being discovered. That would spell trouble. He tried to clear his mind from his raging thoughts. Your Hokage was notified of your situation and status. Your family should know by now that you are okay. Obviously I didn't tell them where you were, but I told them that you will return once your injuries heal. Kurenai nodded gratefully to the man. Thank you. No problem, answered back Naruto in disguise. A silence ensued afterwards between the two warriors. Kurenai spoke after a few minutes of nothing but silence. This place is beautiful. You have a wonderful home. The man smiled a bit behind her mask. Why, thank you. I found this place by chance a few months ago. I made it into my home here in grass country. It's peaceful and away from prying eyes. So this means this isn't your only home? Asked Kurenai, her curiosity tingling inside of her. This is a home away from home. I have many houses like this one throughout the nations. As I said, I'm a traveler. I travel the world and help the people that are less fortunate. Responded Naruto, memories of Konoha coming back to him. All the bad times and all the good times. What about your real home, your first home? Don't you ever go back there? Asked Kurenai, who couldn't imagine such a life. She couldn't live a life without her friends and family and instead live a life constantly on the road. My home is currently inaccessible for me, answered the mystery man vaguely and mysteriously. It wouldn't do him good if he started talking about his life back in Konoha and risk exposing himself. Kurenai raised an eyebrow at his answer. What do you mean? The man sighed at her persistence. If you don't mind, I would rather not talk about it. Kurenai nodded at his request. It seems his home is a delicate subject for him. Another silence appeared. It was Kurenai again who interrupted it. I couldn't help but notice the scar on your chest. Can I ask you what caused it? You don't have to tell me if you don't want to. He turned towards her and Kurenai thought like she was being analyzed or judged by this man. Naruto moved his hand over the area where the scar is and sighed sadly. Just a bad memory. Kurenai could hear and feel the sorrow emanating from his voice. It seems this man has gone through a lot in his life. A lot of pain and sadness seems to be present in his life. How are you feeling? Asked the man in concern and also hoping she would drop the subject. Better than yesterday, mused Kurenai. It will take a while before you recover completely. You strained your muscles and your chakra coils too much. It will take at least a week before you are fully functional. Explained Naruto professionally. I figured as much. What about my partner? Asked Kurenai. She owes her life to both this mysterious man and her Anbu comrade. Like you, he also has chakra exhaustion but on a higher level. He also has some internal wounds which will take a while to heal. I say about a week and a half until he's up and running. Responded the man sitting next to her. Thanks for taking care of us. We owe you our lives. Thanked honestly Kurenai. He waved her off. You don't have to thank me. I'm sure you would have done the same thing if you were in my position. Kurenai nodded at him. She honestly didn't know if she would have done the same. A part of her told her that she would, but then there was the other part that screamed no. Why no? Because of the risks involved. She is a ninja and trust comes second in their line of work. What if the man she saves turns on her and kills her or worse? She has a son to think of now. If she dies, her son becomes an orphan and she doesn't want that kind of life for her son. She saw what kind of lives orphans live. That's why she was seriously thinking of retiring from active duty. She was thinking of applying for the teacher spot in the academy. She likes working with kids and you don't stare death in the face every day. Anime and manga. You know, you told me a lot of stuff about yourself but not your name. Can I learn the name of the man that saved us? Smiled kindly and appreciatively Kurenai. The man turned away from her. He looked like he was deep in thought, like he was in a conflict of sort. And he was. Telling her his real name is definitely out of the question. He doesn't need trouble in his life right now. He can't exactly tell her he is from Konoha, now can he? He can't return to that place just yet. He still has a lot to accomplish and a lot to finish. He gave her an answer, "You can call me Minaze." Kurenai frowned. She knew it was a false name. Everything the man told her so far was shrouded in mystery. What has he got to hide? Is he a criminal, a missing ninja? Is he running away from something? I'm guessing you won't tell me your real name, huh? Frowned Kurenai. The man chuckled at her. No, not yet. My name spells trouble for me. How so? Digged in further Kurenai. She got the feeling that she could squeeze more information out of him right now. The man looked at her, his white mask giving him a scary look, unresolved issues. That was all he gave to her. He smiled behind his mask when Kurenai pouted yet again. It looks like she had a bit of a gossip streak inside of her. Always wanting to know more. It shows that even the Ice Queen of Konoha likes to delve into more womanly stuff. You know, you are the most secretive guy I've ever met. Not even Kakashi Hatake is so mysterious. I'm sure you know who that is. Scoffed Kurenai. The man laughed at the mention of the Sharingan no Kakashi, his sensei in the past. Oh, I know who he is. Kurenai perked up yet again when he heard his tone of voice. It sounded like he knew the man personally or at least talked to him once or twice. You make it sound like you know him or something. Narrowed her eyes Kurenai. Minaze chuckled. Of course I know who he is. The whole world knows who he is. The legendary copy ninja Kakashi Hatake. A decorated war hero and one of the strongest ninjas in the world. His reputation precedes him. Kurenai didn't buy his answer. You are definitely a weird person. Don't think I bought that little charade you just pulled. You know Kakashi. You can't lie to me. Minaze smiled at her behind his mask. It seems I can't hide anything from you. I admit, I do know him. But that's as much as you are gonna get out of me. That's okay. I've got time. By the end of the week I will learn who you really are, Minaze. Grinned Kurenai. The man laughed. Good luck with that. She huffed and turned away from him, which just made Minaze smile further. Naruto decided to ask her something. You know, you are very different from what I expected. The Ice Queen of Konoha doesn't suit you. She turned towards him, slightly surprised by his remark. What did you expect? The man chuckled playfully. A cold-hearted, evil witch. Kurenai frowned. Why does everyone think that she has no heart? Does she give off that kind of vibe or what? I get that a lot. I guess I can only blame myself and that moniker of mine, the Ice Queen. I can be cold but only towards people who deserve it. Naruto secretly smiled behind his mask. Then I should feel lucky, right? She raised her brow. Lucky? Why? Well, you aren't cold towards me, so that means I'm special, right? Laughed playfully Naruto. Kurenai couldn't help but smile a bit. Don't get carried away. I still haven't formed my opinion of you. Much better than what most people used to say. Chuckled bitterly the man, obviously connected to his mysterious past. Kurenai groaned. Here he goes again with the secrets. It's just her luck to be saved by a man whose entire life is surrounded in mysteries. This time Kurenai didn't inquire any further about the matter, even though she really wanted to find out more about him, but decided on giving him some room and privacy. The damnable and somewhat embarrassing silence ensued once more. This time it wasn't Kurenai who broke it, well, at least not completely. A loud grumble could be heard in the clearing. The man turned towards the direction from which the noise came and saw an embarrassed-looking Kurenai who was finding her lap suddenly very interesting. Her cheeks were colored red from embarrassment from releasing such a loud noise. Naruto laughed at her predicament. Well, it seems your stomach is all healed up. Come on. Let's get you something to eat. I'll check on your partner as well. Kurenai nodded gratefully to him. It has been a while since she had a decent meal. She was practically drooling at the prospect of having some delicious steak and rice. Yummy. They both entered the house and Naruto formed a clone to take care of breakfast. The real Naruto went to check up on his other patient. After a few minutes of performing what little he knew of medical analysis, he turned back towards Kurenai, who was sitting behind the table waiting for the clone to finish her breakfast. Naruto took a seat opposite of her. Your partner is healing just fine. He'll wake up sometime tomorrow or the day after that. Kurenai smiled in relief. She was happy to hear that. The Anbu protected her with his life and she wanted to thank him for that. He went out of his way to protect her, and that is not something many people would do, especially for a stranger. The duo waited in silence for breakfast, each lost in their thoughts. The clone finished preparing breakfast after 15 minutes or so. Kurenai got some steamed rice, miso soup and tamagoyaki, which is basically a rolled omelet. She licked her lips and dug in ferociously, but somehow her grace and womanly elegance remained intact. Meanwhile, Naruto received a breakfast which earned him a curious glance from Kurenai and some suspicion as well. Ramen? Asked Kurenai while eating her own delicious food. Seriously, this guy knows how to cook. This is one of the best breakfasts she has ever had. Naruto tensed a bit, realizing what mistake he just did, but Kurenai failed to notice that. He made a quick recovery. Yeah, I tend to eat it in the mornings. Why? Something wrong? Kurenai shook her head. No, not at all. Ramen reminded me of someone. A friend? Asked Naruto, feigning ignorance and doing a damn good job. Kurenai nodded solemnly. Yes. Well, not exactly. We weren't really close or anything, but I considered him my friend. What happened to him? Continued Naruto. Her face grew solemn. He disappeared after the war. He went to confront his best friend and never returned. It's been 3 years now. Some say he died, but the people that knew him still believe he is alive. His friends back home never gave up hope. Naruto remained quiet for a few seconds. What about you? What do you think? She smiled. I believe he is still alive. He isn't the kind of man that dies easily. I know he's out there somewhere. Naruto smiled behind his mask. His heart felt warm after a long time. That man is lucky to have friends like that. Kurenai chuckled silently. That he is. You know, you resemble him in a way. Naruto had a serious look behind his mask, pondering whether or not Kurenai was onto him. His voice didn't betray his thoughts though. How so? Well, for starters, you are both blonde and you both eat ramen. You have moments when you act the way he used to. And you use clones like he does. It was his trademark jutsu. Smiled Kurenai, remembering the blonde sunshine of Konoha. Naruto felt his tension ease. He was good for now. His secret is still safe. But this was getting risky. He needs to keep his distance, otherwise she'll find out, which he can't afford right now. It's not good to live in the past. It's great you keep the hope intact, but you will have to let your friend go. You should focus on your future instead of keeping hold of your past. Said Naruto, speaking from experience. Kurenai retorted, I disagree. The past shouldn't be forgotten. It should be remembered because it made us what we are now. The past is just as much a part of us than the present or the future. Naruto turned away from her, a difference of opinion. A word of advice. The past will eat you up if you try to live in it. Kurenai didn't answer him. He had his opinion and she had hers. She doesn't want to forget her past. Asuma is in her past and she doesn't want to forget him, not ever. But that's beside the point now. Something else was on her mind right now. She was getting more and more suspicious of the man. He sometimes tends to act very familiar and then at the same time not. He seems to know a lot about Konoha but tries to hide it. He knows Kakashi on a personal level, which further raises her suspicions about the man. Whoever he is more than he lets on. He is definitely hiding something and she couldn't shake the feeling that she knows this man. Anime and manga. By the time she leaves this place, she will learn who he really is and what he is hiding. Of that, you can be sure. So, what do you do around here? I imagine it must get quite lonely. Asked Kurenai. Naruto was thankful for switching the topic of their conversation. Not much. When I'm not traveling, I train or try to learn something new, cause you never know when it might come in handy. It could mean the difference between life or death. Kurenai continued her interrogation. I've been meaning to ask you, who was your sensei? I doubt you got as strong as you are now by yourself. Naruto smiled behind his mask. He was a wonderful person. One of the strongest ninjas I knew and my role model and idol. He is part of the reason why I'm traversing the world and do what I do. He died a couple of years ago, before the war. I'm sorry. He sounds like a good man, said Kurenai, offering her condolences. He chuckled. Most women would disagree. He had a bit of a perverted side to him. Kurenai frowned at that bit of information. Perverts are high on her hate list. Rapists are on the top, but perverts are in the top 5. Naruto laughed at her reaction. I'm pretty sure at some point in your life, you were a victim of his pervertness. Most of the women in elemental nations are. She frowned further and got a tick mark on her forehead, indicating that she doesn't like this person despite what she said previously. He sounds like our own resident pervert Hitaki Kakashi or the super pervert of Konoha Jiraiya of the Sannin. Scoffed Kurenai in annoyance. Yeah, he was in their league of pervertness. I'm pretty sure their pervertness is just a side effect of what they witnessed in their life, though. Everyone has something to help ease their pain and nightmares. I'm sure you do too. Kurenai nodded at him, but still you don't have to resort to pervertness to forget about the pain. There are much better ways to go about it. What is yours? Asked Kurenai, interested in his vice. I train until I pass out and then I train some more. Laughed heartedly Naruto. She frowned. That doesn't sound healthy. Hey, if it lets me forget then who cares? Chuckled bitterly Naruto. Kurenai studied the man again. To her, it looked like he carried a heavy burden on his back. A lot of pain, sorrow and anguish is present in his voice and posture. It looks like he saw and experienced some really bad things. Did you fight in the war? Asked Kurenai, hoping to learn more about him. He nodded briefly. Yes, I was there. You? She shook her head. No, I was 9 months pregnant at the time. I wanted to fight to protect my home and my friends, but my baby came first. Why are you still a shinobi? Most kunoichi retire after they become mothers. She smiled sadly and sighed. I really don't know. I guess that's the only thing I'm really good at. I'm thinking about applying for the teacher's position in the academy, though. Quote, Naruto remembered his favorite teacher, Iruka sensei. The first man other than his Jiji who really noticed him and acknowledged him. His teachings and his words will always be in his heart no matter how far away he is. Hey, you okay? Waved her hand in front of Naruto's face Kurenai. Anime and manga. Naruto woke up from his trip to the past. Oh, sorry. Just remembering something. She grinned. Another one of your secrets. He chuckled. You could say that. She frowned in annoyance at his reluctance to share anything about himself. What has he got to hide? Why won't he tell her who he is? Is he afraid that she will hate him for who he really is? Could it be that she knows him from somewhere? Did he do something horrible? His reluctance to reveal his identity is only spurring Kurenai further to find out the truth. And she will find out. Naruto turned towards the clock on the wall. I have to go. I have some matters to attend to. I'll be back in the late afternoon. There's food in the fridge, so help yourself if you are hungry. Your friend is stable, so you don't have to worry about that. I will leave several clones in the vicinity for protection or if there is an emergency. Thank you, responded Kurenai, deciding to not ask him where he's going. He probably wouldn't tell her. Tension could be felt in Konoha. Why? The rookies were gathering, which could only mean something is about to go down. Since the war, Konoha rookies made a name for themselves and established themselves as one of the strongest ninjas to have ever come out of Konoha. What was their motivation, some of you might ask? It was their missing friend and hero. They trained and trained so that one day they could stand side by side with their best friend, Naruto Uzumaki. They never, not for a second, believed that he was dead. Uzumaki Naruto is not someone that dies easily. He is the toughest bastard in the world and there is no way some traitor could ever kill him. Not a chance. The rookies, Ino, Shikamaru, Choji, Lee, Tenten, Neji, Kiba, Hinata, Shino, Sai, Sakura were standing in Hokage's office looking at a very serious Tsunade. Alongside the rookies were their teachers, Kakashi and Guy. There was one more person in the room, Tamari of the Sand, who was acting as a liaison between Konoha and Sand. Shizune was as always by her master's side. Sakura interrupted the silence. Tsunade-sama, what's happening? Why are we all here? Tsunade rested her head on her hands, a caged look on her face. Whatever it was, it must be something humongous. The truth was out. Naruto has resurfaced. The rookies, Tamari and Guy, all stiffened and shook in surprise. Their eyes were wide but full of happiness and hope. This is what they were waiting for 3 years. Their friend, the hope of Konoha, was finally back. They missed him so much. It was Sakura again who spoke, excitement evident in her voice. Where is he? How is he? Is he injured? When is he coming back? Assaulted Sakura with questions towards her master. The rookies were all focusing on Tsunade and on her next words. Sit down, everyone. It will take some time to explain. The rookies complied and made haste to sit down so that their Hokage could continue. Even Shikamaru was moving faster than usual, indicating that he was also happy and excited, but something was troubling him. If he did resurface, why doesn't he come back? Tsunade eyed everyone in the room and a small smile formed on her lips. She was glad to see so many cared for her lost son. It makes her heart warm seeing such devotion. She continued, before I tell you anything about Naruto, I need to tell you the story leading up to that. As you all know, Kurenai and an escort Anbu were sent on a mission in Grass Country. It was supposed to be a routine mission, get in, get the package and get out. It went horribly wrong. The client was a double agent and they set up a trap for Kurenai and her partner. More than 20 ninjas, all ranging from Chunin to Junin, ambushed them. They were cornered but they were rescued by someone. Ino interrupted, was it Naruto? Hope leaking from her voice. The blonde missed her blonde twin dearly. Most people don't know this, but they are really good friends and are very close. It started when her sensei died and she was grieving. Naruto saw her once crying when he was walking home from training and comforted her. He stayed with her through the night, just talking with her. He went out of his way to make her happy and help her with her pain. She was grateful to him, and that was the start of their bizarre friendship. It deepened when Naruto's own master died. It was much worse for him. Lord Jiraiya was a father in Naruto's eyes and the pain of losing him was unbearable. She sought him out that night. She saw him talking with Iruka-sensei on a bench near a 24/7 store. She waited for them to finish up their conversation. After that she returned the favor by shouldering his pain like he did with her. It was the least she could do for her good friend. Tsunade nodded. We believe it was. I received a letter this morning, a letter which you probably read, right Ino? Ino nodded. Others were wondering what letter, except for Shikamaru, who was also there in Kurenai's house when the letter was delivered. The letter was from the man who saved Kurenai and the Anbu. It stated that they were safe and were currently recovering from their injuries. He told us what happened the day before and that they will return back to Konoha as soon as they are able. She paused to see that the information got to the occupants of the room. Satisfied, she continued, the letter somehow got into my office undetected, which raised my suspicion. Kakashi summoned Pakun and made him sniff the letter, which confirmed one thing for us. The letter was sent by none other than Naruto. The scent no doubt belongs to him. He is somewhere in Grass Country. And that is where you come in. She was interrupted this time by Shikamaru. If the letter is from Naruto, then why doesn't he return to Konoha? Tsunade sighed. She was afraid of that question and the answer. The truth is, she doesn't know the answer. She was wondering the same thing. It's obvious he was traveling around, but why won't he come back to his friends and family, the people that love him? Kakashi saved her. That is irrelevant right now. We can ask him that after we find him. It seems he is trying to keep his identity concealed, which means Kurenai probably doesn't know that Naruto saved her. We have to find him before he disappears again. Tsunade nodded in agreement. Kakashi is right. I gathered you here to form a search party. You are to go to the Grass Country and find Uzumaki Naruto. Use whatever means necessary to bring him back. The rookies all nodded. Only one thought was racing through their minds. Find Naruto. Grass Country. Kurenai was currently enjoying the peaceful afternoon. She was lying down on the grass next to the water and looking up to the bright blue sky. She was thinking about some things. At first her thoughts went to her late lover, Asuma, and all the good times they spent together, all the laughs, all the adventures, the hiding from their students. She moved on to another memory, intent on staying away from the memory of his death and all that pain. She thought about her friends, Anko, Yugao and Ino. These were the closest to her. Ino somehow wormed her way into her life after the war, and she is intent on staying, not that Kurenai objects or anything. She likes the blonde. She sees a bit of herself in her. Always cheerful and positive, but also calm and meticulous when she wants to be. Anko and Yugao were her oldest and best friends. They stuck with her through tough and thin, and she couldn't ask for better friends. Kurenai no longer has any family, so she considers her closest friends her family. Next on her mind was her baby boy, Asuma Jr. He is a spitting image of his father except for the eyes. Those he gets from his beautiful mother. He'll be quite the charmer when he grows up, no doubt about that. He is a very energetic young boy, always doing something, always active. He already has a dream. He wants to be Hokage, can you believe that? Kurenai showed him his father's grave a while back and told him what kind of man he was. That day he declared that he will become the best of the best and make his father proud. Kurenai was so happy that day and proud of her son. He really is his father's son. She only wishes that Asuma could be here to see that. The thought of Hokage and her son's proclamation of wanting to become Hokage lead her to another memory. That of Naruto Uzumaki. It's been 3 years since Konoha last heard of the hero of the nations. Her mind often wandered and stuck itself on the memory of the blonde ball of sunshine. She doesn't know why, but Konoha wasn't itself without him. Whenever she walked the streets of her home, she felt like Konoha was different, changed. It lacked something or someone. The energy that usually radiated off Naruto is no longer surrounding Konoha, and she misses that. Things are different without him. Everyone misses him, even the other nations. They all respect him and acknowledge him. Naruto made friends out of every cage, which is unbelievable, but not if you know Naruto, really know him. He always had a way with words. The cages all pooled together their resources in order to find Naruto. That speaks volume of their respect for him. The people of the elemental nations all miss him. When they heard of his exploits and how he climbed from the dead last to the greatest ninja to have ever lived, they all revered him as an idol, a hero. He was a hero in their eyes. He represented hope, chance. If he, an outcast, could become the best, so could they. They all hope that he will return one day. Kurenai smiled at the memory of the blue-eyed god of hope. He always had a knack to do the impossible, ever since he was born. He survived the hatred and the pain. He survived the beatings, the glares, the insults. He survived the village. He succeeded in where everyone else would surely fail. He became a genin, saved his sensei, beat a genius, saved 2 countries, fought against Orochimaru and survived. And that was before he became 13. Naruto was the epiphany of determination and bravery. Perhaps that is why Lord Jiraiya noticed him, or it could be something else. Everyone wondered why he chose him, but he would never tell them. But Kurenai saw something in Jiraiya's eyes. It was happiness, a bond of sorts. She saw how those two acted around each other. It was like watching a father and son bickering. They were family, and she was happy for Naruto. He deserved it. She was rustled out of her thoughts when she heard someone coming out of the forest. She turned towards the direction where she heard the noise coming from and saw the masked man walking towards her. She waved at him. He nodded at her and sat down next to her. He formed a clone and told him to go check on the patient in the house. He turned towards her. Everything all right? She nodded. No problems at all except for the boredom. How do you do it? Don't you get lonely here? He chuckled. You get used to it. But it's not like I stay here the whole day. There's a village not too far away from here. I go there from time to time. Thank God. I thought you liked being a loner. Grinned teasingly Kurenai. Look who's talking, Ice Queen. Retorted back Naruto, gaining the upper hand in this light scuffle. She scowled. Hey, it's not like I enjoy having that nickname. Blame that on the perverts I shot down during my lifetime. He laughed and she joined him after a while. It was kinda funny. When she thinks back on it, it was funny seeing the reactions of the guys she ignored. They were like kids that were denied candy, except that in this case candy was Kurenai. I can imagine the faces. I saw it plenty of times on my master's face. It was priceless and the running away from women was too. Laughed Naruto. Kurenai grinned. I know what you mean. I mean, what do perverts expect? That we will welcome them with open arms. Idiots. Well, they have themselves to blame for thinking with their lower regions instead of their brain. Chuckled Naruto. Or with their heart. If you want to impress a woman, speak from your heart. Smiled Kurenai, thinking back when Asuma first started flirting with her. He was such a klutz, but he was genuine in his compliments, that's why she didn't turn him down. Naruto nodded and chuckled. He smiled. Whoever won your heart must be one lucky man. Said Naruto, remembering Asuma. He was a great man in his eyes, one of the greatest. Kurenai's face grew solemn at the memory of her late lover, that he was. Naruto sighed internally, forgetting about the fact that the wound is still present in her heart. And he can't blame her. The wound from the death of Ero Sennin and his parents and him is still fresh in his heart. It seems it will be there for as long as he lives. I'm sorry. Who was he? Said Naruto sadly. He hated himself for lying like this, for lying to her. Her lips formed a smile of sorts, remembering the man that won her heart so many years ago. His name was Asuma Sarutobi and he was my first love. He was a wonderful man and he would have been a great father. A tear cascaded down her cheeks. I know who he was. He was a great man. It's a shame he succumbed to this cursed world we live in. Said Naruto in support and comfort to the woman next to her. He wanted to do more for her but he couldn't. He was risking enough as it is. Kurenai nodded and wiped the tears that were forming in her eyes. It's been 4 years now since he died but the pain was still there. She was grateful to this masked man for trying to help her and comfort her. It did help, if only by a little. It's up to her to move on. She shifted the attention onto him. How about you? Anyone special in your life? He looked away from her. A lot of people. My parents, my master and my friends to list a few. I meant romantic-wise. Chided Kurenai playfully. He chuckled at her. You just don't give up, huh? But no, there is no one like that. She continued. You are missing out on things. Perhaps it's time you quit being a traveler and settle down. He smiled. Perhaps. Who knows? I might do that someday but not now. She nodded. Good, glad you understand. Grinned Kurenai. Naruto chuckled yet again. You know you are very bossy when you want to be, even to a stranger. You don't feel uncomfortable at all ordering me around. You know, I could be a very evil man that wants to rule the world. She grinned back slightly. Please, you could never be evil. You are too kind for that. Besides, why should I be uncomfortable? If you aren't, why should I be? Besides, you are actually good company, better than most male company. He laughed boisterously. You know, you are a very interesting woman. I'm actually glad for stumbling upon you and saving you. My life just got more interesting. He stood up and said, the day is still young. I'm going to the village I mentioned before. You want to come or do you want to stay here? Asked Naruto kindly. Was that a question? Come on, that's too easy for Kurenai. She propelled herself upwards, clearly wanting to escape the boredom that is present when the man is not around. Sure, the clearing is beautiful but there isn't too much to do when you are injured like Kurenai. She could train here but she is still recovering. Lead the way, smiled Kurenai. Naruto smirked and did as she asked. Half an hour later, they took it slowly since Kurenai was still suffering from chakra exhaustion and wasn't fit to run at higher speeds. Half an hour later they arrived at a small village that seemed to be full of life. The vendors were out and selling their products, kids were running around and playing. The women were gossiping, the older population sat on their porches and just enjoyed the new day. It was a beautiful picture, serene. It looked so peaceful, so wonderful. Naruto smiled at the village that he adored so much. For the past 6 months or so since he found the clearing he was staying, he often came to this village. It calmed him down and filled him with joy. The people were kind and always cheerful. They welcomed him with open arms. "It's beautiful," commented Kurenai. Naruto nodded and smiled in agreement. "I know. Far from any civilization, this place is untouched by the ninja world. Come on, let's go." Kurenai nodded and followed Minaze into the village. As soon as they were in sight of the village, there was a loud yell coming from the village. Kurenai looked on and saw a stampede of kids running towards them. Kurenai had a bewildered look on her face. What was just happening? The kids were running at top speed towards their destination. When they were near the duo, they jumped and tackled Naruto to the ground, either hugging him or smiling at him. Kurenai was stunned but also very pleasantly surprised. It seems the kids loved him. A smile came onto her face at the scene. Naruto laughed without a care, with the kids still on top of him. These kids always make him smile. They are so pure, so genuine to him that he can't help but smile at them. He stood up with the kids still holding on to him like glue. One spoke for everyone. "Nisan, you came back. We missed you. Can we play ninja again?" asked kid with the infamous puppy eyes jutsu. Naruto ruffled the boy's hair. "I missed you guys too. Of course we can play ninja. That's why I'm here. Come on, let's go. Last one to the village is a rotten egg." The boys and girls all started running as fast as they could back towards their village, not wanting to be the rotten egg. They all huffed and panted when they arrived back but smiled nonetheless when Naruto started forming ninja teams. They loved it when their big brother came to visit them. He always plays with them and tells them stories about his adventures. Kurenai meanwhile leisurely strolled towards the village, still smiling at the man playing with the kids. It's like he has an aura that just attracts the kids to him. There was one other man who had that kind of spirit, their hero. A memory of Konohamaru and company playing with Naruto came to her mind and she smiled wider. Konohamaru is perhaps the last link to Asuma for her. He is a part of her family now. She focused her attention on the nice lady who was currently walking towards her. She smiled and bowed respectfully towards Kurenai. "Hello, my name is Akira. You must have come here with Minaze, right?" Kurenai smiled back at the kind lady who was quite the looker herself. "Hello, my name is Kurenai Yuhi. I'm just tagging along with Minaze over there." Akira nodded. "A friend of Minaze's is a friend of ours. Would you like some aid? It's pretty hot today." Kurenai nodded gratefully and went with her towards the aid vendor down the street. Kurenai conversed with Akira and the other moms of the kids that Naruto was currently playing. They were all looking at the scene with Naruto being pummeled to the ground by a horde of 8-year-olds. Akira turned to Kurenai. "How did you two meet?" This is the first time he brought someone with him. Kurenai told her the story of how he saved her and her partner. She left out the gruesome details about death, blood and other stuff. "And here I am," finished Kurenai. Akira smiled. "Yeah, that sounds like Minaze. Always helping someone, always playing the hero. You know, he saved us from a band of bandits that were plaguing this area. He was just a traveler to us back then, but as soon as he saw that we were in trouble he jumped in and saved us all. He risked his life to help us. A stranger risked his life for someone he doesn't know. He is a wonderful man." Kurenai smiled with her at the story. The short while she knew Minaze, she knew that he was something special and this story just proved it. To risk your life for a total stranger, that is the quality of a good man, a hero. Just like their own hero from Konoha. Kurenai asked, "Have you ever seen his face?" Akira smiled at Kurenai's interest in the man. Akira shook her head. "No. He's very secretive about that. But we don't care about that. We don't need to see his face to know what kind of man he is." But Kurenai's gaze was plastered on Akira's, but Akira smiled again. I know he has blue eyes. The most wonderful shade of blue I have ever seen. Quote. Kurenai felt giddy inside. She learned something new about him. To sum up what she knows so far. He has blue eyes, blonde hair, is a ninja from somewhere in Fire Country, knows Kakashi, has been to Konoha before, a pervert for a master, she frowned in thought. It was still not enough. These are just minor details about his life, nothing substantial. He could be anything for all she knows. She needs something more relevant to him, something personal. She turned back towards Akira. What can you tell me about him? He is very secretive with me. He doesn't like to talk about himself. Akira nodded in her assessment of the man. Yeah, that sounds like him. I don't really know that much about him. We don't talk about his past or his identity. He comes here often to play with the kids or help however he can, either with constructing, grocery shopping for the old or something like that. Kurenai frowned again in annoyance. This man was bugging the hell out of her, repeatedly. She turned back towards the playing Mayonnaise, or whatever his name was. She had a half of mind to just marching over there and tear that mask off. But she refrained herself from doing that, for now at least. She saw him walking towards her while telling the kids that he'll be right back. He stopped. Kurenai, would you like to join us? We are one short. Kurenai raised an eyebrow, a bit surprised. I don't know. I really shouldn't. Naruto will have none of it. Come on, it will be fun. Let's go. He took hold of her hand and she could feel his strong grip, his power. She didn't resist. It's like she didn't want to resist. She shook herself out of her thoughts and focused on the screaming kids in front of her. Naruto calmed them down a bit. Settle down, kids. This is Kurenai and she will be joining us. Say hi. The kids all greeted in unison. Hi, Miss Kurenai. Kurenai smiled at the adorable kids. Hello there. You'll have to forgive me if I'm not good at playing your games. I've never done this before. Naruto reassured her. Ma, don't worry about it. Just go with the flow. The kids will take care of everything else. She nodded, albeit not so sure about this. But she had no time to object as she was bombarded with questions from the kids. One of them particular surprised her and made her blush. Ni-chan, is she your girlfriend? Kurenai blushed but hid it well. Years of experience, I guess. Naruto's reaction couldn't be seen, but his voice indicated he wasn't thrown off by the question or he was really good at hiding it. He chuckled warmly. No, she is my friend. Now, who will be the commander? 10 hands shot up into the air, all of the kids volunteering for the position. A couple of hours passed and Kurenai was absolutely exhausted. Who knew that playing ninja with kids could be so tiring? Definitely not her. But she'll have to get used to this, since Asuma Jr. will surely also want to play ninja one day. Despite the fatigue, she was content. She had a good time. She can't remember the last time she felt so relaxed and happy. Her belief that Mayonnaise is a good company just strengthened. Being around him for the past 2 days was never boring. Naruto and Kurenai were walking back towards the house, conversing with each other, telling some jokes, having a few good laughs at each other's embarrassing accounts from their past. They entered the house and saw a peculiar sight. The unconscious Anbu was now conscious and sitting on his bed, rubbing his head. Oh, I see you are awake. Much faster than I expected, said Naruto. The Anbu, obviously surprised by the intrusion of this new, unknown voice, shot out of his bed, getting into his Anbu stance. He regretted doing that as he immediately felt dizzy and fell backwards. He was caught by Naruto, who gently laid him back down on the bed. Kurenai decided to calm the Anbu. It's okay. He's a friend. He saved us after you lost consciousness. The Anbu looked towards the voice and saw it was Kurenai. Anbu sighed in relief, happy to see that she was okay. It seems he needs to thank this man. Anbu turned towards his savior and spoke. It seems I owe you a thank you and an apology. Sorry for reacting the way I did. It was uncalled for. Naruto chuckled at the man's clumsy apology, which wasn't needed. Please, don't apologize. You were a ninja and a good one, judging from the way you reacted. Now lay down so that I can inspect your wounds. Anbu complied and Naruto did some basic analysis. He finished after a few minutes. Naruto moved away from the bed and the Anbu moved to a sitting position. Naruto spoke, "It looks like you are healing nicely. Your head will feel like lead for a day or so. You suffered a concussion, so that's normal. You do have severe chakra exhaustion, which will take a while for you to recover. Your ribs are healing nicely. I say in a week's time you will be good to go." Anbu nodded thankfully for the man's help. Kurenai addressed the Anbu, "Thank you for taking that hit for me. I owe you my life." Anbu chuckled in amusement, "No need to thank me, Kur-chan." Kurenai went wide-eyed. Only two people call her that, Anko and Y. The Anbu started removing the mask. When the mask came off, it's like some sort of visage that was around this Anbu disappeared. It revealed a gorgeous-looking woman with long purple hair that went down to her waist. Her face had that exotic feeling, a hidden feralness just waiting to be unleashed. Kurenai was gasping for air. "Yugi-chan. What? How? Why?" Yugao laughed loudly at Kurenai's shocked expression. The pain coming from broken ribs hurt her a bit. She paid it no mind right now. It seems her second mission was a success. "Haha. You should see your face right now. It looks like our experiment worked," grinned Yugao, happy to have pulled one over Kurenai. "What experiment?" demanded Kurenai, who was annoyed and still shocked. Yugao turned towards Naruto. Could you leave us for a moment? This is a Konoha secret." Naruto nodded even though he really wanted to find out how she tricked him. Yugao turned back towards Kurenai. She grinned in amusement. She told of her second mission, which was actually an experiment. The biggest problem with Anbu masks was that they only hid their face but not much else. The hair, the body, everything else is still out in the open. And ever since Orochimaru got his hands on the Anbu folder, which has the identity of every single Anbu on the job, Tsunade had a branch of the Anbu working on a new mask, one that would hide everything. And this mask of Yugao's was the prototype. It was imbued with a complex sealing formula and a simple genjutsu that hid the true body from sight and replaced it with a body made of illusion. You might ask yourself, but if it is just a genjutsu, then if you get hit, the genjutsu breaks, right? Wrong. That's where the sealing formula comes in. It makes the illusion tangible. It is similar to Tsunade's Henge no Jutsu, but since that is something only she knows how to do, they had to come up with something similar. Fuinjutsu is truly a remarkable thing. The sealing formula also hides the usage of chakra which is needed for the illusion to stay on. Kurenai was stunned. She was fooled all along. She had no idea that her best friend was behind her mask. She was furious at her but at the same time happy to see her and happy to see that she is okay. She wouldn't forgive herself if she died because she was weak. Kurenai hugged her dear friend, happy to see her indeed. Yugao returned the sentiment. Naruto meanwhile returned to the room and smiled at the scene. He is also happy to see Kat-chan. He remembers her from when he was younger. She was in the Anbu squad assigned to keep watch over him. She would see her from time to time watching him from the rooftops. He also had a sinking feeling in his gut that she was the one that would occasionally buy him food and clothes. Too bad he can't ask her right now. Kurenai let go of her friend and introduced Minaze to her. "Yugao, this is Minaze. He saved us." Yugao bowed and thanked him. "Pleased to meet you, Minaze." "My name is Yugao." Naruto bowed back. Isn't it forbidden to tell your name if you are an Anbu?" asked Naruto shyly. Yugao gave him a stern look. "True, but you won't tell anyone, right? I can always ask Kurenai to send you into a yaoi genjutsu. Would you like that?" Minaze grinned evilly. Yugao. Naruto shook his head and waved his hands in front of his face frantically. No, no, no. I can keep a secret. I promise." She smiled and Naruto let out a sigh of relief, happy to have escaped that torture. Yuago teased, "I knew it. Kurenai already has you whipped." Naruto grumbled something and turned away from the two laughing females. Kurenai high-fived Yugao for the victory. Naruto turned back towards them discreetly and smiled at them. He missed them. He misses them all, but it's not the time yet to return. I see, so that's what happened after I passed out, said Yugao thoughtfully. Naruto nodded at her, indicating that he finished retelling the events that happened the day before. She sighed. It seems I owe you more than my life, Minaze. Naruto raised his eyebrow. Yugao continued, you saved Kur-chan from a fate worse than death. If you need anything, let me know. I am in your debt. Naruto smiled behind his mask, happy to see such loyalty for another person. As I said to Kurenai before, you don't need to thank me. No one deserves a fate like that, not even my worst enemy. I'm just glad I was there when I was. It seems Lady Luck is smiling upon you too and me. Yugao and Kurenai smiled at the man. Such a good heart he has, a rare heart. There aren't many people in the world with a heart such as this man's. They are lucky to have stumbled upon him. If it were any other man, they don't want to imagine what would have happened to them. Kur-chan, it seems we have a gem of a man in front of us. Such a gentleman, smiled kindly Yugao. Kurenai nodded with her friend, we are lucky indeed. Yugao grinned, so, tell me the juicy news. What have you two been up to while I was sleeping? Kurenai shook her head at her friend's behavior. It seems Anko was rubbing off of her and that wasn't a good thing. Naruto chuckled, I'll leave you two alone. You have a lot to talk about. He was ignored by Yugao and Kurenai, the latter being grilled for any worthwhile information. He smiled at the two sisters, and left the house to do what he usually does, train. When he left, Yugao turned serious and spoke, all right, what do you know of the guy? Kurenai wasn't surprised by her change of tone and behavior. From what I gathered, we can trust him. I sense no deceit coming from him. Trust me, if he wanted us dead or worse, he could have done it any time he wanted. I saw him fight. I saw his power. Even with the two of us at full power, we don't come near his level. He is in a class of his own. Finished Kurenai, telling Yugao what she learned of this mysterious man so far. Yugao nodded, happy with what she heard so far. Did you gather anything else? Who is he? Kurenai frowned. She was asking herself the same thing for the last 48 hours or so. Trust me, I wish I knew. His name isn't Minaze, as you probably deduced. He holds a lot of secrets and isn't very forthcoming with them. He says he's a traveler, but I don't buy that story. He is running from something. I just don't know from who or what. I know that he is from somewhere in Fire Country, with Konoha also a possibility. He seems to know Kakashi very well, but I don't know from where. He could have served under him in the war or met him somewhere else before. Yugao nodded. Anything else? That isn't much to go on. That describes pretty much half of the male population in Fire Country. Well, he has blonde hair and blue eyes and a scar over his heart area, answered Kurenai, a light blush adorning her face while thinking back at the memory when she saw that perfect body. The blush didn't escape Yugao's eyes. She grinned in mischief. Oh, it seems something, or rather someone, caught your attention. How was it? Kurenai scoffed. I have no idea what you are talking about. She turned away from her gaze, which only made Yugao's grin increase in size. Oh, don't be like that, Kur-chan. Please, tell me. I promise I won't tell Anko, at least not right away. Grinned Yugao teasingly. Kurenai didn't relent but did respond. I swear, you are becoming more like Anko every day. All you need is a short skirt and a mesh shirt and you are Anko Jr. Yugao scoffed at the comparison. What, can't a woman comment on a gorgeous body? It's only natural, for the love of God. Please, don't be such a prude. I still remember the time when you were the same as me and Anko. Don't tell me you forget the time when we went to the hot springs. I still remember someone having a nosebleed, laughed Yugao playfully. Kurenai's cheeks got red both from embarrassment and from reliving the memory. That was a good day. I thought we said we won't talk of that day again, grumbled Kurenai. We did, but she isn't around anymore, remember? She can't hurt us for reliving that memory, replied Yugao, caressing her cheek for some reason, like it was hurting her or something. Kurenai winced at the mention of her. She also rubbed her cheek for no reason at all. Don't remind me. She was scary when she was angry. Yugao nodded in agreement. Amen to that. But enough about that. You still didn't answer me. Grinned Yugao towards the end. Kurenai sighed. She knew she won't let this go unless she told her. Ah. What the heck? She would find out eventually. Kurenai got the feeling that Minae's trained shirtless. Fine. Do you remember the man that we observed in the hot springs that day? She got a nod in response. She continued, it was 10 times better. Said Kurenai quickly, averting her gaze, trying to hide the enormous blush that was currently adorning her face. Yugao wasn't faring any better. The blush was there and there were stars in her eyes plus a slight nosebleed from trying to imagine the body in her mind. It was working. My, oh my, such body, she needs to see it for herself. Kurenai recovered from the fantasizing and was shaking Yugao, trying to bring her back to the world of the living. Kurenai's heart wasn't really into it because let's face it, who would want to leave that world? She slapped her once and then again and then again. The 10th time did the trick. Yugao blinked, not realizing at all that she was on cloud 9 for 5 minutes. I'm sorry, did you say something, Kur-chan? Kurenai sighed but smiled nonetheless. No, just trying to get your attention. Quote. Yugao sighed dreamily once more, letting all of her fantasies wash away. I assume Konoha was notified of our status. She got a nod for a response and so she continued. Well, it seems we can't do much more but to rest and let time do its thing. Kurenai nodded and turned towards the entrance of the house. Should we go see what he's doing? By the time she said that, Yugao was already walking towards the door. She smiled at her antics and proceeded to join her. They opened the door and looked around for the stranger. They spotted him on the lake sparring with one of his clones, both weaving in and out of each other's attacks. Kurenai and Yugao took a seat on the porch and content themselves by just watching him train. Kurenai spoke up while watching Naruto block all of his clones' attack. It seems the point of this sparring exercise was to evade or block his opponent's attacks and not to defeat your opponent. Yugao, does that stance seem familiar to you? Asked Kurenai her longtime friend. Yugao wasn't really paying attention to the stance but at the man using it, but now that she mentioned it, the stance was slightly familiar to her. Yugao hummed. It does seem familiar but I can't place my finger on it. What is that stance anyway? Kurenai responded. It seems like a mixture of what you Anbu use and some other stance I can't seem to identify. Yugao focused on his feet and saw what Kurenai saw moments before. This man was using a variant of the Anbu style. It was modified to fit him but it's definitely one of Konoha's styles. His feet work does look similar to ours but that's the only similarity. His blocks, his punches, kicks are all different from the way we use them. But the question is where did he learn the Anbu moves? Pondered Yugao out loud. Kurenai nodded. From his master perhaps. His master could have been an ex-Konoha ninja. Yugao let the information run in her head a couple of times, trying to connect the dots but to no avail. It seems they will have to get directly to the source to find out. The problem is that the source isn't willing to talk about it. She sighed. This is taking us nowhere. These clues aren't enough. We can't keep on guessing like this. I know. We'll just have to wait and see, I guess. Maybe he'll tell us eventually. Sighed Kurenai disappointedly. Yugao nodded and turned back towards the lake where Naruto was currently wrapping up his training session. He evaded a punch from his clone which turned out to be the last for him since a fist embedded itself into his gut, dispelling him. Naruto righted himself and wiped the sweat which made itself known on his face. Phew, that got my blood pumping. Smiled Naruto, satisfied with the light session. He turned towards the sky and saw that the sun was already setting, the day coming to an end. He turned back and saw his audience sitting on the front porch, watching him with amused looks on their faces. It looks like they enjoyed the show. He walked back towards the house and towards his 2 temporary companions. He leaned against the wooden rail. It seems luck is truly on your side, ladies. You will about to see something beautiful. The two women wanted to ask what he meant, but he answered their question before they could ask it. "Just watch," said Naruto, pointing at the sky. Kurenai and Yugao focused their attention onto the sky. The magic of the setting sun was turning the sky orange with a tinge of red, making it a gorgeous sight. With how busy ninja lives are, many people forget about the simple things in life, like for example watching the sunset or the sunrise and things like that. Both Yugao and Kurenai watched serenely at the scene, both just enjoying this rare moment of peace and tranquility. Soon, everything will go back to normal. The sun released the last of his rays and plunged the world into the darkness of the night. With the moment over, Naruto turned around. "Dinner will be ready in half an hour. Don't stay out too late. It gets chilly in the night." With that he excused himself and left the two ladies alone. While Naruto was making dinner, Kurenai and Yugao both talked about their plans for the next few days. Yugao will need a few days to recover from her injuries, and so does Kurenai. "What is there to do around here?" asked Yugao. "Not much. There is a village nearby which Minaze often visits. The people there seem to love him and treat him as their hero. But other than that, what you see around the house, that's all there is to it." Yugao sighed. These are going to be some of the longest days in her life. With that said, they both retreated back inside the house for a nice hot meal courtesy of their savior. Elsewhere, "Anything, Kiba?" asked Kakashi, the leader of this search party. The Konoha ninjas were jumping across the forest top at top speed, all looking determined as ever. Kiba shook his head. "They've been traveling for a while now. They were nearing the border with Grass Country, but they were hoping to pick up his trail already in Fire Country." Kakashi issued a new order. "Let's pick up the pace." No one objected, even though some of them were already showing signs of fatigue. They all looked onto the horizon, the image of a smiling Naruto appearing before them, giving them the boost they needed. They all picked up the pace and raced onwards towards their destination. House. It was morning. Yugao stirred from her slumber. She sat up slowly, rubbing her eyes. Her body was still all sore and there was still pain present in the ribs department. The good news is no more headaches. Another thing to cross off of her injury list. She looked around the room and saw that Kurenai was still sleeping, but Minaze wasn't in his bed. She didn't pay extra attention to that. He can't be too far off. She yawned and stood up and made her way to the bathroom. She did her morning routine, which left her refreshed and rejuvenated and ready for the day that is to come. When she got out of the bathroom, she saw that Kurenai also awoke. "Good morning," said Kurenai through her yawn. "Morning, Kur-chan. The bathroom's free for you to use," responded Yugao. Kurenai nodded and stumbled towards the bathroom. After a couple of minutes she came out in a much better state than before. She saw that Yugao was making coffee and waited patiently for her to finish. She made some small talk with Yugao. "I'm guessing he wasn't here when you woke up." Yugao hummed in response. Kurenai sighed. "He's really starting to annoy me with all this sneaking around." Yugao finished and poured Kurenai some coffee, hoping to calm her nerves a bit. "You can't blame him for having secrets. And we can't demand of him to tell us his secrets or his real identity. It's his choice," said calmly Yugao. Kurenai knew that, but still it was infuriating. "Have you looked around the house yet? Find anything of interest?" asked Yugao. Kurenai shook her head. "No, nothing special. He either doesn't have anything personal of his here or he hid it somewhere safe." Yugao scoffed. "Of course he hid it. Wouldn't you?" Yeah, it's just bugging the hell out of me not knowing who he is. I feel like I should know him, but I don't know why," sighed Kurenai in disappointment. "Don't worry, I'll help you. We still have time before we recover completely," smiled Yugao in reassurance. Kurenai smiled back and thanked her for her support. She was always a good friend, in good and in bad. They sipped their coffee in peace until the door opened and in walked Minaze. They sensed him a while ago, so they didn't feel surprised or alarmed by this sudden intrusion. "I see you are awake. I trust you slept well?" asked Naruto nicely. The ladies both nodded and offered him a cup of coffee, which he happily accepted. They made some small talk with Kurenai, fishing for more information about him. Naruto both smiled and scowled at her persistence. If this keeps up, it's only a matter of time before they figure out who he really is. He is hoping that they recover soon so he can go on with his life. I'm going to the village to restock my supplies. If you want, you can join me. It seems the villager, especially the kids, took a liking to you, Kurenai. Smiled Naruto. Kurenai also smiled a small smile. I wouldn't mind going there again. Yugao also joined the conversation. I'm in. I won't stay here while you two get to have all the fun. But we'll walk. I still can't run at ninja speeds. Naruto nodded and offered her to carry her piggyback, but she vehemently refused the offer. Suit yourself. We leave in 20 minutes. Responded Naruto. Village. They arrived to the village an hour later, much sooner than they expected. The reason? Yugao finally caved in and rode on Naruto's back. Naruto convinced her after telling her it will take more than an hour to reach the village if they walked. Yugao was already feeling the burn just by walking, so she didn't think she would endure it the whole trip. She finally accepted the offer and they proceeded to jump across the trees. They were now seen walking towards the village gates. It was still early in the morning, so there weren't many people around, just some street vendors hoping to snag a few customers. Naruto set out to finish what he came to do before the kids swarmed him. He entered the supply shop and bought some linen, food, water and some basic tools for fixing the house. Kurenai and Yugao meanwhile decided to see what the vendors had for sale. They checked out some piece of clothes and jewelry, but nothing really caught their eye. They found a small dango stand and decided to indulge themselves. They happily strolled down the street, each with a dango stick stuck in their mouth. They were interrupted by someone waving at them and yelling, "Kurenai-sama, over here." Greeted Akira friendly. Kurenai changed directions towards the waving woman and Yugao followed her closely, hoping to find out who this woman was. "Hello Akira. How are you doing?" Smiled gently Kurenai. "I've been good. Thank you for asking. I see you brought a friend with you today," said Akira while facing Yugao. She extended her hand. "Hi, my name is Akira. Pleasure to meet you." Yugao smiled in return at this kind woman. "I'm Yugao. The pleasure is all mine." Akira nodded. "Did you come with Minaze?" asked Akira. Kurenai nodded her head in affirmative. "Yeah, he's shopping for some supplies. We tagged along so we wouldn't be bored," explained Kurenai. "This place is pretty nice. It's so peaceful," interjected Yugao into the conversation. Akira nodded, smiling at the woman. "It is. We have Minaze to thank for that. Ever since he came here, it's like all the problems disappeared. The bandits don't dare to come back and ninjas stay away, not wanting to face Minaze in combat." Their conversation was postponed for the moment because they heard a loud yell coming down the streets and it sounded like Ni-san. Akira already knew what was happening and Kurenai had her suspicions of what was happening. Only Yugao was left in the dark. They all turned towards the noise and saw Naruto running away from a group of kids. In his hands were 2 bags each, all filled to the brim with supplies. Naruto stopped when he saw his 2 companions and Akira. He dropped the bags in their laps and made a mad dash down the street, away from the exuberant horde of kids. The women blinked. It all happened so suddenly. One minute they were watching him run, the next they were holding his bags. They all shook their heads, while Akira smiled. She was used to this. It was happening a lot ever since he came into this village. "Wow, that's a lot of kids." "You were right Kurenai, he is popular," said Yugao, a little bit surprised at the event that just transpired. Kurenai laughed. "Just wait till he starts playing with them." Another cloud of smoke arose at the end of the street and it was coming towards the women. Naruto could be seen running frantically away from his little brothers, not wanting to get tackled again by them like yesterday. Once they get on you, you are hard-pressed to get them off. When he was near the 3 women, he spun around and held out his hand in a stop sign. "Stop," said Naruto, hoping they will listen. They didn't. They all let out a cry of joy and tackled him to the ground. Naruto couldn't help but smile. He may complain at the attention, but he really doesn't mind it that much. The kids laughed and Naruto laughed with them. They were all grabbing at a part of his body. Every inch of his body was covered by a kid. He ruffled the heads of the kids he could reach and smiled brotherly at them. All right, I give up. You can let go now. I won't run away, laughed Naruto. The kids complied and unglued themselves from his body. Naruto stood up and smiled at them. He had a soft spot for these little brats. Some of them were also orphans and he tries to look after them. He and the villagers all chipped in and built a small orphanage for them. It wasn't much, but at least they have a roof over their heads. The chief of the village and Naruto also started a fund for the orphans and for the poor. The kids' fund, as it is called, will be used to provide education for those that can't afford them. Naruto channels some of his earnings to this fund, hoping to make a difference. A small kid with black hair and wild green eyes spoke up, "Ni-san, can we play ninja again?" All of the kids let out an excited yell, all agreeing with the boy. Naruto chuckled and ruffled his black hair. "I have something better in mind. Come on, we need to buy some supplies for this to work." Naruto led the group of kids to a store around the corner where they will buy what they will need for their little adventure. The three ladies all watched in amusement at how the young man took control of the crowd full of kids pumped up on sugar. Akira spoke, "I still can't wrap my head around how he does it. Just one kid can be a handful, but more than a dozen, that's pure torture. And yet, he isn't even tired." Kurenai agreed with the woman. She knows how tiring and difficult raising a child can be. But it seems Minae's is a natural when it comes to kids. Kurenai smiled at that thought, but nobody seems to have caught that small smile. "You make it sound like having a kid is hell," said Yugao, oblivious to how stressing having a child can be. Both Akira and Kurenai chuckled at her naivete. "You have no idea," both said, making Yugao sweat dropped, and the thought of having a kid of her own seemed unappealing to her right now. They stopped laughing at Yugao's expense after a few moments, and Akira said they can drop their bags at her aid stand where they can enjoy in the miracle that is aid. They made some small talk while drinking their aid. They talked mostly about Naruto and the village and where exactly they were. It seems they are about 100 miles from the border with Fire Country. They are still a long way off from home. After about 15 to 20 minutes they saw Naruto and his entourage walking towards them, all of them grinning widely. Their hands were tucked behind their backs, hiding away whatever they had in their hands. The ladies didn't like that grin. They saw mischief in their eyes and it scared them a bit. Naruto was up front, acting as the leader. They stopped 5 meters from the lovely ladies. Kurenai spoke, uneasiness present in her voice. "What are you guys doing?" She wished she never asked. Naruto dropped the bomb, "Charge." With that, all of the kids plus Naruto revealed what was in their hands. Water balloons. A shitload of them. The ladies were bombarded with water, all of them caught unaware and unprepared. The bombardment ended after a few seconds, but the damage was done. Kurenai, Yugao, Akira were all soaked to the bone. Their hair was a mess, their makeup in shambles, they were a mess. Kurenai spoke, She was interrupted when a kid with brown hair fired off his last water bullet at her, nailing her right in the face. The kids and Naruto were laughing their asses off, all of them unaware that evil was in front of them. Naruto was the first to sense the hidden killer intent, and he stopped laughing and gulped nervously. He spoke in a shaky voice to the kids. I think we should run," advised Naruto wisely. The kids were confused as to why their leader would say that. Meanwhile the ladies all stood up and glared at the delinquents. Naruto took a step back and prepared himself for the dash of his life. He turned around and started running as fast as he could while yelling across his shoulder, "Run!" The kids looked towards the women who made their leader run away in fear. And they saw why. The group took a collective step backwards and sweated nervously. They gulped and moved calmly and slowly, not wanting to anger the devil. When they thought they had sufficient lead, they made a run for it, hoping to come out of this alive. Why did they have to listen to their big brother? The women all started chasing after them, well, 2 of them did. Yugao didn't make it after 2 steps, her body not responding to her commands. She cursed out loud, but she managed to yell to Kurenai, "Make them pay, Kurenai." With that she focused her attention on trying to move her body. 20 minutes later, the people of the village could see Akira and Kurenai dragging bound kids and Naruto down the street. Naruto was sporting a nice set of lumps on his head while the kids seemed fine, except they looked deathly pale, like they saw a ghost or the devil himself. They stopped in front of the aid stand, where the crime happened. Yugao was there, sitting and sipping her aid, looking calm and composed. She smirked. "I see they got to experience the Kurenai medicine." Kurenai grinned, proud of her achievement. Naruto spoke up, not pleased with the treatment he received. "How come only I got beat up?" They threw the balloons as well. Kurenai turned around and bent down so that they were facing each other, eye to eye. She glared. "Whose idea was this?" "Yours. Look at my clothes and my hair. They are ruined. Be happy you are still alive. As for you kids," said Kurenai, turning away from the petrified Naruto and looking towards the even more scared kids. She spoke sweetly, but there was malice hidden in her sweet voice. "I trust you won't do this again, ever. Do I make myself clear?" The children all nodded furiously at the scary woman. When she turned away from them, they all sighed in relief and smiled at each other. They pulled off an amazing prank and got away with it. Life was good for them right now. Akira and Kurenai took a seat next to Yugao and poured themselves some cold aid, easing their nerves and calming them. Their drinks finished, Yugao and Kurenai waved the woman goodbye and relinquished the kids into her custody. While Naruto was still at the mercy of 2 soaked women and very angry women. While being dragged, Kurenai spoke, "When we get back, you will make us the best lunch you ever cooked while we wash ourselves." "Understood." "Hi," said Naruto in resignation. "Ah, this feels so good," sighed Kurenai while taking a bath in the lake in the clearing. "I concur," said Yugao, also feeling very good right now. When they got back to the house, they threw Naruto inside the house where he started working on the lunch. Kurenai threatened him with yaoi genjutsu if he peeked on them while they bathed. With that taken care of, they both went towards the lake. They decided to just jump into the lake, with their clothes on since they needed to wash their clothes as well. And now we find them relaxing in the shallow waters of the lake. "I could fall asleep right now," smiled dreamily Kurenai. Yugao agreed with her. Her body felt so light right now. The pain was washed away by the water and she could feel her muscles relaxing. After 20 minutes or so, Yugao decided she had enough while Kurenai decided to stay for a while longer. "I'm going inside. I'll tell you when the lunch is done," said Yugao while climbing out of the lake and drying herself off with a towel. Kurenai nodded at her and went back to her relaxing. Kurenai decided to have a swim in the lake, to stretch her sore muscles. She submerged under the water and swam for a few meters until she had to resurface. She repeated the process a couple of times, enjoying herself. It was during the last excursion under the water that she spotted something. She swam towards it and saw an opening that seemed to lead to somewhere. She went back to the surface and took a deep breath and then dived in order to explore this underwater cave. She swam for a few seconds. Then she saw that the underwater road seemed to end. She saw an opening and swam towards it. When she resurfaced, she took a deep gulp of air. The cave was deeper than she expected. Her breathing under control, she looked around the cave and was stunned at what she saw. The light reflected off the water, gave the cave a bluish glow, illuminating the whole cave. The place was beautiful, romantic in her opinion. She turned towards the other side of the cave and saw a pathway that led into another room. She climbed out of the water and started walking towards the opening in the cave. She got the shock of her lifetime when she walked inside this seemingly uninteresting room. She saw an altar of sorts. She walked towards it and saw a book on it. She grabbed the book and read the title, The Tale of the Gutsy Ninja. She opened the book and skimmed through the pages, looking for anything special. When she got to the last page, her eyes widened. There was a picture of Lord Jiraiya there, signed as the author. She touched the picture, making sure it was real and not a figment of her imagination. Kurenai never knew that Lord Jiraiya wrote a book that wasn't porn. She saw that something was written beneath the picture. It said, "Gaki, I know he would have wanted you to have this. You were his favorite student and he loved you with all his heart. You were his family and he was proud of you, just as I am. You were destined to be great. Jiraiya knew it and I know it. You are the one." It was signed by someone named Pa. Kurenai reread the text again, intrigued by it. It seems this book was a gift from this Pa who seemed to know Lord Jiraiya, to a student of Jiraiya. Naruto, pondered Kurenai. Only other student of Jiraiya that she knows was the fourth Hokage. But if this was a gift to either of them, why is it here? Why is it in the hands of Minaze? She racked her brain for a possible answer, but it all led her back to just theories and a guessing game. She set the book down to its original spot and searched the altar more thoroughly. There was a hidden compartment behind the altar. She reached in it and pulled out a box of sorts. The box was wrapped in a cloth of sorts and had a swirling mark on it, just like the ones Junins wear on their flak jackets. She carefully unraveled the cloth and opened the neatly designed box. Inside were 3 pictures. She picked up the first one and immediately recognized the man in the picture. It was the fourth Hokage, Minato Namikaze. She had no idea why his picture would be here, but she had a feeling she will soon find out. The second picture was up next. This one was of a gorgeous-looking woman with red hair that flowed down to her waist. Kurenai knew this woman. This was Uzumaki Kushina, the bloody habanero and every pervert's nightmare and Kurenai's personal idol. She looked up to Kushina. She was strong, smart, beautiful and one of the strongest Kunoichis in the village, second only to Tsunade Senju. She picked up the third picture and saw Minato, Kushina and Jiraiya smiling at the camera. Minato had tears in his eyes. Jiraiya was smiling proudly while Kurenai was rubbing the lump that was her stomach. Kurenai's eyes widened a bit. She knew that Kushina was pregnant but didn't know that Minato was the father. Sure, they were close, closer than most friends, but to think they were actually in love. I mean, she had her suspicions that they were more than friends, but she never got the chance to find out the truth. Another thought was running through her head, the baby. If her suspicions are correct, then, he is their son. He has to be. The resemblance is uncanny. He has her personality and his looks. It all matches. Naruto Uzumaki is the son of Minato Namikaze and Uzumaki Kushina. This again raises the question of why is this in Minaze's possession? Did he steal this? Is he actually N? She shook her head. Minaze can't be him. If he was him, then that would mean he lied to her, to all of them. To his friends, family, the whole world. Naruto wouldn't do that. She shakily put the picture back inside the box, along with the 2 others. When she did this, a note slipped out of the frame of the picture. She caught it and opened it. To my parents and my godfather, the greatest people I know. I love you. Your son, Naruto. Kurenai let go of the note and brought her hand to her mouth, disbelief etched on her face. Her body was shaking and tears were pooling in her eyes. A single thought was in her mind. Why? She raced out of the room, leaving the box and the pictures behind. She jumped into the water and swam ferociously back towards the house. She jumped out of the water, using chakra even though her coils still haven't recovered. Kur-chan, there you are. We were looking for you, said Yugao in relief. She was worried for a second that something happened to her. Kurenai paid her no mind. Instead she was focused on Minaze, or should she say Uzumaki Naruto. She was breathing heavily and she was shaking, either from exhaustion or from something else. Naruto knew his time was up. He saw where she came from. She found his secret room. It seems his old life has finally caught up to him. Kurenai spoke. Why? Why did you do this? Why? Yelled Kurenai in anger, sorrow, pain, anguish. Yugao was confused. What was happening? Naruto spoke slowly and calmly. I did what I had to do. I needed to get away. I don't expect you to understand, but this is something I just had to do. Kurenai was shaking wildly, her fist clenched. Tears were now falling freely down her face. She didn't know why, but she felt betrayed and hurt. She was hurting, but why? They were never that close. What's happening here? Asked Yugao, worried for Kurenai. Naruto was about to respond when he sensed something. They were coming. Despite the situation, he smiled behind his mask. It's been so long since he last saw them. 14 people jumped down from the trees, all facing one man and one man only. Naruto slowly started to turn around while he spoke. Long time no see, my friends. Kakashi, Guy, Shino, Ino, Lee, Hinata, Sakura, Choji, Shikamaru, Neji, Tamari, Sai, Kiba and Ten. All of them were looking towards the masked man, shock and surprise on their faces. They finally caught up to him. Yugao was surprised to see her comrades from the village. Kurenai was still in her world of pain and betrayal to notice them. Sakura, Ino, Hinata and Ten were all tearing up at the sight of their long-lost friend, even though he was hiding behind that mask. Others couldn't believe that this was actually Naruto. Sakura spoke up, her voice shaky. Naruto, is that really you? Yugao was wide-eyed when she heard Sakura speak. She turned towards Minaze, in disbelief. What were they saying? Is this really Naruto? Naruto sighed internally. It seems he caused them a lot of grief and pain. He never wanted that to happen. He wanted them to be happy. He reached up and slowly started to remove his mask while facing his friends. His friends all waited for him to reveal himself to the world once more. The mask came down and they saw the face that they missed so much. Those wild blonde hair that seemed to defy gravity itself. The whisker marks on his face identifying him as the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi. And those vibrant blue twin orbs of perfection that can read your soul. He was back. Naruto was back.